Thank you for coming on into the live and sharing your essence with me in this eternal moment of which we all share an inextricable and inexorable part. Thank you for doing your part, for coming on in each and every day, and we'll do the same without wasting a single second of your time. Bada bing, bada boom, we go into the charts, and boom indeed. To the upside, BTC getting that push up to that 44.7K region. And let's go into what we were saying would happen yesterday off that 706 trapdoor, we call it. Gets the access denied or access granted. And it looks like we got that access granted to the upside. We were talking about that 44.4, 2.4 billion reclaimed liquidity. So it looks like we got it.
Fatality.
As we go into the heat map of the liquidations. What are the liquidations? Well, people lock their liquidity into the charts to get burnt to a crisp by the market maker for not using a stop loss, and we get to see where those crispy characters are. So let's do it now. It looks like they got 40 million in short liquidity for BTC. Shorts got squeezed across the board on ETH, Sol, everything. A lot of squeeze shorts. Today is short squeeze juice.
Fatality.
Do we continue higher in the, let's go to the heat map and take a look. We can go to the version 2, whatever. Let's see if the version 1 looks better. Kind of. You can go to a lower fidelity image. So there's 30 million up at that 45K mark. We were looking at that as a potential gap here on a lower time frame. It's 50% of this drop down is up at that 45.245 region, the 1618 of this to the bullish trend based fib level that we have up here. We did break through that 44.4 we were talking about after a long time of consolidation. It almost bored me to death seeing this 11 days of sideways action before we broke out at that 706 yesterday. Let's go ahead. We also had ES making that target that we put out for our man Dingo here, hitting that 5,015 level after pulling back to the idea that we were talking about. We were talking about coming down possibly to the gap. It did not even have the bearishness to go down, sweep that gap, and then went higher to that region. NQ got taken along for the ride as well. So NQ was seeing some higher prices. We were putting those ideas out to the Discord, seeing how we came up to that 845 region after targeting all the buy side. Dollar retracing back after hitting into that fair value gap, waiting for the bond auctions. What do I mean by bond auctions? Well, if you go to forexfactory.com, you can kind of see what is in store. We had a 10-year bond auction Thursday evening my time, but Wednesday night for America, and we have some more FOMCs talking today, and then we have some more stuff with the yen and 30-year bond auction on Friday. So the dollar could be coming back into prominence. We did tap into that buy side, coming back to some of the sell side here and possibly getting recharged. We have a gap down here, so this is giving the risk on assets a little bit of a push to the upside, like Bitcoin, Nasdaq, ES still going into the bullish narrative. ES and Nasdaq aren't one for the dollar, so it does take a little bit to react to that. So if we do see a push up from a gap down here reclaiming on Dixie, do we flip this into support and continue higher? We'll have to go look into the momentum, but first let's see where we can readjust our fibs. So we have this drop to the downside. The halfway point is here at that 45 mark. We're going to measure the entire retracement from top to bottom here and just see what's going on here. We can go into a pocket level. The golden pocket lines up with that 44.9 level, the 1618 confluence region up here. There's a gap up in this region, I believe, on a lower time frame. If we go to the 15-minute, this is why I have this marked off in particular. If we look here on the 15, there is a gap there. I believe it's even on a lower time frame. Let's go ahead and go back to this exact moment and see why we put it there. Let's go ahead into the 5. There we go. We narrowed it down to a 5-minute gap. So the 5-minute gap has you at this 45.85 level. You have the halfway point of this entire initial drop to the downside here. That's at 45.245. The entire impulse to the downside, 618 level, 44.987. A lot of confluence for this region inside the 45K region. Do we get a push up to this and a rejection off of some of these levels? This is the math side of the liquidity equation. 3 pillars of trading. You got liquidity, math, and momentum. So do we get a push up into this region? This is what a target we've been looking at for some time. It is midweek reversal Thursday. Do we continue higher into a bullish narrative? How is the auction going to go for the bonds and the dollar? Does the dollar get a bullish narrative with all the world FUD and wars and all that stuff with the petrodollar and OPEC and Saudi Arabia supporting Iran and all that stuff? This is an uneasy time to see where the direction may go. So let's go ahead and throw on the momentum and see. We got that push off the point of control and the 706 grant to the upside. So let's go ahead, throw on everything. Link in the description for more. MomentumMaster.info. Scroll down to features. Toggle everything at your leisure. See the trend cloud, the baselines, stochastic array, and more. And the dynamic alerts to your phone. As I was getting ready to stream, I did see a nuke flashing. So does this nuke hold true for the idea here to the upside? Okay, so these are leading indicators. This is 7 time frames, the stochastic array here, the opposite end of the spectrum. Do we get these 7 time frames of exhaustion playing out potentially? Took a long time to play out here for BTC. Let's go ahead and start our descent through the time frames. 22 hours for the 3-day candle to close. Heads up on the 3-day, we're looking at the weekly here. Does the weekly get up to this level and then reject? That is the question. Why are we thinking about that? Well, we have the pre-having retraced the cross down event of the weekly. Does it get a rejection off the resistance at 45K after reclaiming some of this wick? The pre-having retrace, just an idea here by Rect Capital. Go ahead and check it out. Read about it on your free time. Do we come back to that 25% retrace into into April or not? Coming to okay, so we're going to go within the framework of, let me take this off. We got that push. So coming to the daily time frame. Finally got that push above that daily cloud and closed candles above, flipping the super trend. Super trend is now bullish, 7.5% away to flip it to bearish again. Took some time to flip that after having the baseline cross-up event from January 25th from that 38K adaptive moving average bounce. Do we continue higher? This is the double top suppression of the reset by the Williams push on the daily time frame. We are seeing some ambiguity on these 22 and 12-hour time frames, but one thing we were talking about, which gave us that call to the 44.4, one was the liquidity, two was this disparity to the money flow and the RSI. We talk about this all the time, that this money flow comes beneath the RSI and it wants to come up, and sure enough it did. So this money flow beneath the RSI suggested, while we could have had that suppression by the Williams, the money flow was suggesting a bounce off the point of control. This is why we called for that 44K bounce and not the opposite end. If you go to the 12-hour also had flat cloud here, but it was starting to thin and come up here, leading into the upside call that we were talking about, the 706 permission granted, the money flow beneath the RSI pushing up, getting that fatigue potential on the other side of the equation on the 12-hour. If we come to the 6 also reclaimed the cloud in that London session and then held and pushed on higher. 6-hour time frame also getting that money flow beneath the RSI push as we push up on the Williams and the MACD crosses up. Okay, coming to the 4-hour cloud, we got that bullish bounce off of that shallow retrace from here. 4-hour is pushed to the ceiling on the stochastic money flow RSI, even Steven levels, but getting to that overbought status as the Williams pushes it higher and going lower into the hourly. Okay, hourly time frame getting this nuke as you fatigue, potentially speaking, on multiple time frames here, getting gassed on the momentum in a bullish narrative. The nukes don't play out as immediately as whatever trend you're in does not necessarily play out immediately. Here's the example of the last time it locked in on an hourly. Took some time, but eventually came down a little bit, but we were in a bullish narrative, so it ended up taking a lower time frame bounce out and even went higher. So the rocket ships in a bull market are more keen to take, but as you see here, it paused, it came down, reset one of the lower time frames, took it higher, paused, reset one of the lower time frames, took it higher. So if you're in a bullish narrative, you may not want to be shorting these blindly. You need key confluence and math on your side, and liquidity as well. Looking at the 15 Asia session, so we are completely bullish, coming up above the super trend and the channel, price channel here, and the cloud still ultra bullish, pointing to that 2 o'clock angle. Do we continue higher into the Asia session up to those confluence regions, the gap and the Fibonacci retrace levels up at 45K? Looking at the liquidity, once again, you have some liquidity up here, 30 million up in the 45K region. If we go to the 6-month time frame, we basically took back all those 2.84, $3.5 billion up in there. You have 2.45 at 45.2 that we could still come up into on the 6 month. Looking at the weekly liquidity here, you have some in that 44.8 spike of liquidity up here. Beyond that point, not so much, so we could induce and come back down to the 43.9 for a retest at some point. So do we push higher or not? All right, let's go take a look at the chat, see what's going on. Steven, what's going on? Dingo, what's going on? Dingo, hope you capitalized on that ES play to the upside. We were doing the play-by-play in the channel. I was saying gave out that nice call to the 5,015 for you. Looks like it played out. Pretty good. So those trend-based fibs for the win, right? Impulse, retrace, locked in, loaded. Resistance at the 786, came back down to the 236, bounced out. Okay. So let's go to the total. Total getting a bounce here. Let's go to the higher time frame. You're getting some nukes as we. How does it lock in? This locked in on a 12-hour, and then we proceeded to dump. So the larger the time frame the nuke locks in, the more likely, with math and everything on your side, that this does play out. So we need to see this lock in a manner here. Do you get that push? Total not getting as much of a push for what Bitcoin went up on. Total 3 also getting a little bit of a push from that 706 region we were talking about. Daily cloud still pointing down. We closed out above it though, so coming up back above to that $499 billion mark for the total 3. Looking at the crypto bubbles, altcoins, we got some CAS, DYM, Mina, Ordi, PLS, STX, SFX, Monero yet again coming back into prominence on the week. You have Immutable, Link, and CAS, Python, a bunch of others. Green for the alts and Bitcoin. Sorry, cat, you're putting my leg to sleep. There we go. All right, so where do we go from here after the move? Gotta let it percolate. It is Thursday, so how does false move or midweek reversal Thursday treat us? Do we start to see a little bit of a pullback? We did see sideways for quite some time, so they could have reaccumulated for a larger leg up. The length of time spent in this range was quite long, so this could be a repricing into higher regions. So I'm not going to be shorting this without confirmation. So I'm going to look if it gets to a key level. What does it do at the key level? Do I get 3 hits to the high and a fade? Do I see liquidity on my side or not? Let's go ahead and take a look at the liquidity on the free liquidation levels indicator here by ML application. Going to the lower time frame to see this in motion. All right, I gotta bounce out in the next 6 minutes, but taking a look here, you got a bunch of 100xers, breakout traders playing the range here, some 50x brethren with the 100x stacked guys from the pre-market. So after liquidating some of these shorts, it could come down into these 100xers, and I would not be surprised if it plans to go higher. It would come back to possibly here and make a little bit of a bounce. There's a lot of overlap here. Sure, you're getting some 100x shorts here. These guys underwater that they're stacking up that they could come back to. It'd be nicer if they come up to here and then reject to match up with the math. But don't want to step in front of a freight train trying to short this just yet. Just looking at the general pullback idea here. Okay. Came back into those 25xers. You have some more on a higher time frame here. Whoa, what you doing, cat? Getting hair all over me. All right, so we'll take a question or two and then we will bid you adieu. I think the play yesterday, the call was good enough. We're gonna let the dust settle before we make a call. We do have those confluence regions at 45K. These are some levels to watch. You have a mighty amount of 100xers down here. So if there is some bullish news for the dollar, then we could be coming in a furious manner to here. Who knows what the future holds. You do have the nukes printing. We'll see how they stand the test of time. See a lot of 100xers in here. So what does it all mean? Do we come down into that 43.8 region to sweep up 200 million after reaching the target? 43.8 would take you to here, not even taking you to these stacked up levels down here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the questions. Hey, what's up, SMR KC1? So, do we get some higher time frame nukes locking in here as we push up into some regions here? I'd like to see it come up to some confluent zone. It is the Asian range. Asia is not known for pushing higher, but Hong Kong can push a little bit higher and then generally fades into London. Do you see a target hit? I'm going ahead and putting a alert here, not on the horizontal ray. We're going to put it on the alert at the price level, and we'll do it at 45,085. Let's just do that and say crossing 45K every time. All right, so that will give me an alert to my phone as it crosses 45.85. If it crosses there, I will give it a little bit of a look and a gander and look for the reaction off this 618. So, key level, this entire impulse to the downside, 618 rejection, do we get it in this region? There's a fair value gap up at that 45.85 level. This is something we were waiting for some time. So, do we see a reaction there? Looking at the 6 hour, you're bled of volume in this last hour and a half, but we still have a lot of time to see it percolate. Let's go see if you have some questions. Could you check UMA? Sure can. So we'll check UMA and bid you adieu. As people take profits on their longs, they will look for alts to go into, so there could be something for that. You did have a burst up in January 18th, and we're seeing a retrace. Where are we retracing to? Let's go ahead and pull a fib and find out. So we have yet to come back to the 618 within this retrace region. Come on, cat. So coming to that $3.928 region or not. Let's see what the liquidity on this thing is. It's very, very low. Low volume, less than 1 million. So be very, very careful in your position size and your expectation. Looking at the volume is a very small micro cap coin, and the order book is most likely scant. What do I mean by scant? It means very few things in here to make it move. That means you might not have, you'll have trouble getting your order filled on the way in and the way out. More particularly on the way out is where you need to worry about, because if you're in profit and there's no one there to sell to, you're SOL, and you have to market order and lose some of your gains and the area where you're expecting to get out. So be very careful looking just at structure without knowing what the liquidity on that coin is. This is a micro cap, and sure, while this did have a nice gain of 200%, how many people were in here and what type of liquidity was it working with? This is what we need to look at prior. And you had a bunch of rocket ships as you were coming down. I remember looking at UMA before, and we had a break there. This is all the way from November 2022. It didn't really see anything until basically this month. So what is that about exactly? How did we break out of this rut that we were in for basically a year, since May of 2022? This is for an entire 613 days, almost 2 years in the dumps, and pulling out within January. So is this a retrace continuation idea on the daily time frame? One thing to look at is this cross down event of the daily cloud. Is this a position to see it come higher and come up into these regions? So if you come down into the deep retrace region, you could get a bounce off of a recovery of that daily candle. Let's go ahead and look at the 12-hour. 12-hour cross up is in play. Last time you had the baseline cross down, it played out. So this cross up on the 12-hour could give some push as we come to the lower time frames. 6-hour. 6-hour getting overbought without really going anywhere, insinuating it wants to do a liquidity grab, hit the golden pocket region before possibly pulling out. This overbought and the money flow coming back to even Steven levels without going anywhere. You do get the possibility of all of that suppression of the MACD and Williams on the 6. 4-hour has some money flow above the RSI, suggesting the 4-hour comes a little bit lower. I'd like to see it come back lower in this rejection of the cloud. Came up to the cloud, rejected further. Looks like it wants to come lower to the pocket. Coming to the hourly. Hourly also coming down. We'll see. Does it come into this region? Once again, very low liquidity, so be very, very careful in your expectation. What is some of these 5%? So yeah, do you come down into this pocket and see a reaction here? Sweep some of this up without hitting the golden pocket range. Hit the golden pocket and then go. Once again, the 4-hour looks like it could come a little bit lower. So this rejection off of the cloud, you are getting an angle here that at some point might come up. So if you come down into this region, sweep up, and then come down to here, this would be a more bullish entry idea, but we'll see. That is UMA, low liquidity micro cap. Okay, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Does Bitcoin have some nice reaction at the 45K region? We have liquidity at 44.8 and possibly at 45.3 and 45 even. Hey, that's my comic book box. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. What do we do in this region? It is midweek reversal Thursday. You have some bond auctions going on, potential bullishness for the dollar. This nuke, does it lock in on the higher time frame up here? What do we see in this reaction region? That is the question. We'll find out next time. So thank you very much for coming on into the live and sharing your essence with me in this eternal moment of which we all share an inextricable and inexorable part. Thank you for doing your part, for coming on in.